Hi everyone, this is Paul here for the Magdalene Centre. Today I'm doing the astrology report for the week commencing the 26th of September, outlining some of the key aspects and themes for the week and giving a basic overview of what it all means for us. Before I do that though, I just want to clarify, as I always do, that the astrology doesn't control our lives. It merely helps us to understand what kind of spiritual lessons are unfolding around us, what the collective energies are doing, and how we can best make use of that. But before we can even begin to really work with the astrology, we first need to be connected to the earth in the first place, i.e. we need to be grounded and centred in ourselves and be able to work with the natural rhythms of earth first before we can really start integrating the lessons that the planets are highlighting to us. Now, as usual, I'll start off with the moon's passage through the signs. We begin with the moon in Aries, and with the full moon only having been the day before, the energies are still going to be pretty high in terms of the moon. So it's important that we do work on that, getting grounded and spending time in nature. And with the moon being in Aries, we may feel that drive to take action, to assert ourselves, and need to get things started. But on Thursday, the moon moves into Taurus, and this can really help us with that grounding side of things, because it kind of prompts us to kind of slow down, to go with the natural flow of things and maybe spend more time in nature. We're just taking things slowly and getting grounded and centered in the body. Before on Saturday, the moon will move into Gemini, and this brings with it a focus on communication, sharing of information, and researching things, so gathering information for any new goals we decide to set in the wake of the full moon. Before on Monday, the moon moves into her home sign of Cancer, and this only prompts us to spend a bit more time alone, just to or in the home environment, or anywhere that allows us to feel at home, and just focus on connecting with our emotions, allowing them to flow without being controlled by them, and getting in touch with how we really feel about things, so that we're not suppressing our own emotional needs in the process. There's a couple of planetary changes this week. The first one is going to be Chiron is moving backwards into Pisces. So Chiron is retrograde at the moment. So we've basically come to the end of our first taster of Chiron in Aries before the full transit begins proper on the 18th of February next year. So we've had a taste of seeing where do we undermine ourselves, where we, in terms of I am consciousness. So in Aries, it's where do we fear taking action? Where do we severely limit our sense of self by using negative terms after the words I am? Because whenever we utter the words I am, it's an identity statement. So whatever word follows that has the power to significantly affect how we express ourselves. So with Chiron moving back into Pisces, this marks the end of this first taster of Chiron in Aries before the full transit starts proper next year. But with Chiron moving back into Pisces, this gives us an opportunity to tie up any loose ends that we haven't dealt with from the Chiron in Pisces transit, which has been happened for about 7 years, up until partway through this year. So what we're looking at here is, where do we still have wounds of disconnection? Where do we still feel like we've abandoned by God or abandoned by the universe or anything like that? And where do we still have a love of power because we don't realise that we're connected to everything else, and therefore we try and achieve that sense of connectedness or that sense of oneness through substitutes like drugs, like alcohol, like excessive food intakes, like codependent relationships, basically anything where we're trying to feel that sense of oneness and connectedness through surrogates that have inherent limits to them. Obviously, if it's substances, then it's going to be the body develops a tolerance to it, which means that we have to take greater and greater doses of it to get the same effect. Or we can take the inward journey and face whatever boundaries or limits we place on ourselves that stop us, or restrictions that prevent us from opening up to that universal consciousness, and learn to transform from the love of power to the power of love. It's allowing that universal love to flow through us and heal us, and recognise that we've been connected to it all along. It's only our own fears that have stopped us from connecting with it, or our own belief that we're not worthy enough that prevents us from connecting with that unconditional love and that universal consciousness that's there for anyone to connect to as and when they choose to, provided of course that they're actually aware it's possible in the first place and they've done the necessary work to remove the conditioning that prevents us from connecting to it in the first place. The other change in terms of sign is going to be Juno moving out of Taurus and into Gemini next Tuesday. So this brings with it a focus on away from the need for physical security in relationships and for a stable practical base to need for mental stimulation in relationships. So relationships where we can have engaging discussions with things, to share ideas, and relationships that encourage open communication, because communication is obviously a fundamental underpinning of a relationship, and if we don't have that honest communication in relationships, it can cause anxiety because we're now relying on inner monologues, or we're thinking things are one way when maybe they're not. So part of this period is obviously going to highlight the need for us to really focus on opening up our communication with one another, to see open and honest communication, and use this to stimulate the relationship, to allow the relationship needs to be met so that both parties are fulfilled. Now the other major change during this week is Pluto is turning direct on the 30th, i.e. Sunday. So with Pluto coming to station prior to that, there's a lot of intense energy all coming to a halt, so it intensifies because it's still, but then as Pluto turns direct fully on Saturday and starts moving forward on Sunday and starts moving forward again, we need to make sure that whatever we've learned about ourselves during the Pluto retrograde, specifically about how we define power, what is our relationship with it, where do we seek power over other people out of insecurity and a need for control, and also see where we trying to pursue or create a legacy for ourselves isn't actually right for who we are. Because Pluto demands an uncompromising truth, and it's recognising where do we have hidden motivations to try and control other people, where do we keep pursuing dreams which we think are ours but actually aren't, and no matter how successful we get, we never feel fulfilled, or we never feel like it's legitimate, because deep down we know that we're pursuing something that isn't right for us. But it's all very well and good having received these insights, but it means nothing if we don't apply it. Knowledge on its own is useless if there's no ability to apply it in life. It just takes up mental space and it doesn't actually do anything. It's only when we apply knowledge in a way that's guided by wisdom that we actually grow and change. But it requires that we take absolute responsibility for our lives in order to do this. We have to have the courage to acknowledge where we need to make changes because we've been living a lie or pursuing things which don't fulfill our own spirits and our own personal needs. And with Pluto being a Capricorn, this also, in some respects, the square between the Sun and Saturn in Capricorn also highlights this is the clash between, because Capricorn requires that we have that patience, discipline, self-control in order to achieve anything, but it also requires that we know ourselves to begin with so that we actually know what we need to achieve. So with the Sun squaring Saturn in Capricorn on Wednesday itself, this brings with it the challenge to incorporate that patience and discipline into our psyche, to make sure that whatever we're doing is done through pursuing truth, through doing things honestly, and making sure that we commit the necessary actions aligned with the spiritual laws. Because Capricorn is all about learning to take action aligned with those spiritual laws. The laws being how everything's interconnected and everything we do has an impact in one way or another. So if we don't want to be creating karma for ourselves, we then obviously need to make sure that we're not doing something that's based on lies, whether it's self-delusion or trying to lie and manipulate other people. The more we know who we are and the more we seek to honestly express it and make sure that our actions are honest, then the more likely we are to achieve our long-term goals, provided we take the necessary action day to day to keep the goal going. Because obviously if we stop nurturing goal, it inevitably starts to fall apart, and unless we quickly get back on the ball and keep things rolling, keep doing the tasks necessary to maintain the goal, then it will inevitably fail altogether. So this is a challenge that Saturn in Capricorn is highlighting to us all, is that need to commit to the goal 100%, take the necessary actions on a day-to-day basis to keep things going, and learn to value qualities like patience, like discipline and self-control. And the only place we can do this is in the present moment, which leads back to the point that I said at the start of the video. We need to be grounded and connected to the earth, i.e. fully present in our lives, in order to use the astrology in the way that will bring about our greatest empowerment. If we're not even connected to the earth, if we're not even taking responsibility for our own lives and making sure that we try and align with the natural cycles so that we stop no longer creating unnecessary stress for ourselves, if we don't do this, then we're going to struggle to use the astrology constructively. So, that's useful guide for the week. There's quite a lot taking place this week, but fundamental points, especially in the wake of the full moon that's just happened on Tuesday, highlighting so many different areas at once. It's very important that we take that time to get grounded, whether it's through exercise, spending time in nature, but anything that puts us back in touch with the natural rhythms of the earth. This then enables us to then receive that energy, because if we're not grounded, then we're going to struggle to use the energies and learn the spiritual lessons properly. But if we take the time to get grounded, get centered, maintain some kind of spiritual practice that includes grounding within it, so that we don't waft off into illusion, or we don't engage in escapism. And by doing this, we can then naturally align with the skies, because the less grounded we are, the more effort it takes to utilise the energy coming from the astrology. The more grounded we become, though, the more we naturally just align with it, and our actions are guided by wisdom, rather than constantly over-analysing things and causing ourselves stress through trying to do things out of alignment with the natural cycles. So I hope that's a useful guide for the week. I hope it brings you many blessings and many new insights, and I hope through the process of grounding and connecting with the planets, it helps you to identify new growth opportunities, new choices to be made, especially with the Sun being in Libra now and marking a new season. I hope the astrology of the week brings you many new insights and new ideas for where you want to grow next, and may bring you fulfillment and much growth. So take care, and may you be blessed.